Hey guys, Pen here again. Today we have the brand new structure deck, Wave of Light. So this is a brand new structure deck that basically revolves around stopping what your opponent does, which is something that I very much enjoy. So I decided to purchase it and open it for you guys to see what's actually inside, although you can already see the list of the cards included. But yeah, this deck, contrarily to the previous structure decks that came out in the past couple years, this one is not too good. This won't impact the meta just as much as the deck that included the ABCs, or the deck that included, let's say, the dinosaur deck. This one is going to be a little subpar because there aren't too many big cards in here, but it's still a very enjoyable deck to play, and there are some pretty interesting cards nonetheless, so we'll take a quick look. We have the beginner's guide, which explains the rules, basically, which is kind of nice, and it seems to be in-depth enough to have the new players have something out of this. We have the playmat, which I will open quickly for you guys. This looks nice. Wow. This actually looks pretty darn sweet. Okay, who is she? This is Parshath, and this is something else. These are basically the main three monsters of this deck. And on the other side, the side that is not the actual playmat, is basically the list and all the tricks you can do with this deck, and some little insights on what you could add from different sets. Not bad, but that is not the main thing we are here to see. We are mainly here for this deck, which includes Eva, but we don't really care for Eva. She's a nice little monster right there, but she is not the main purpose of this deck yet. Let's dig in slowly but surely. So we have this little promotional item thing, not really important, but let's start going with the cards. We have Eva, or Eva, however you guys want to pronounce this. I just realized my lighting is not too great. Maybe this is better? This seems better a bit. So Eva, 1-star light monster. If this card is sent to the graveyard, you can banish up to 2 other light fairy monsters from your field and or graveyard. Add the same number of level 2 or lower light fairy monsters with different names from your deck to your hand. This is good in this deck for one simple reason. The fact that you really want to get your fairies in your hand, because this uses counter fairies, and most of those counter fairies, like the heralds, are level 2. So, very useful card right here. A must-have in this deck if you want to play this kind of deck. And we have the boss monster, Sacred Arc Air Knight Parshath. Basically, this guy is the beater of the deck, which also allows you to special summon it easily, because if you activate a counter trap card, or if you negate the activation of a spell or trap card or monster effect, you can banish 2 other fairy monsters from your hand, field, and or graveyard to special summon it. So either you use a counter trap, or you use some heralds from your hands, and you can special summon it pretty easily. Then, when this card is actually there, if this card attacks a defense position monster, inflict piercing battle damage. If this card inflicts battle damage to your opponent, you can add 1 Parshath or 1 counter trap card from your deck to your hand. Very powerful monster right here. But you do need to get it on the field, and if you start the game with it in your hand and you don't have any other fairies, well, you just wasted your time. But it's a very powerful monster once you do get the chance to summon it. Very cool card right there. And here we have the other card from the playmat, Power Angel Valkyria. Looking good. I did not expect this card to look that good in this kind of foil. So basically, she's a little beat stick with 1800 attack, and if you negate the activation of a spell or trap card or monster effect, you can add a light fairy type monster from your deck to your hand. So basically, if you used heralds to negate, you can get more heralds to negate some more, or You can always use her effect to get honest to help protect her. And basically this allows you to search through your deck. You can even go and get Sacred Art Hair Knight Parshath. So very powerful card again. We have a very interesting card here, the Sanctum of Parshath. If this was easily searchable, this deck would be so much better than it actually is right now. But it's not that it's not searchable. There are ways to get it, but it's not the best searchable card. But this card is so powerful once you use it in this deck. This card's name becomes the Sanctuary in the Sky while on the field or in the graveyard. So basically you don't need to use your field spell zone. So this helps you a lot to run a deck that needs a field and needs the Sanctuary in the Sky. Fairy monsters on the field, so your opponents and your own, gain 300 attack and defense. Set spells and traps cannot be targeted by or destroyed by card effects. So you can banish them still, you can return them to hands, but you can't target them, and well, that stops a lot of stuff. Basically, you need like Giant Trinade to get rid of face down cards without having to get rid of this card first. And this is a game changer for counter fairies. This helps you not only protect your fairies, but protect your back row, which basically is meant to disrupt. So this is great, but that's not all. The final effect. Once per turn, you can target a total of 3 fairy monsters and or counter traps with different names in your graveyard. Place them on top of your deck in any order. So basically, you can even recycle your heralds and counter traps. It doesn't allow you to draw, which is kind of sad, but mind you, sometimes drawing is done with other cards, and this card is here to recycle because you will go through your deck pretty fast. I mean, search, 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 and those are just the 3 main cards. I mean, there are many other cards in this deck that allow you to search, and this will help you recycle because sometimes you just don't have any cards to search anymore. Next card is Rebirth of Parshath. When a spell trap card or monster effect is activated, reveal 1 counter trap in your hand, and then discard 1 card. So you could discard the counter trap you revealed, and you pay 1,000 life points to negate the activation of the card you just that was activated, and you shuffle that card into the deck. Then you can special summon 1 Parshath monster from your deck or extra deck. So you could basically special summon this guy. You could basically special summon the Synchro, or whichever one version of Parshath you want to special summon. Mostly you would want this guy, but the Synchro does exist and is not bad. But yeah, this is a great card. The only downside is that you need to have a counter card in your hand, and you have to discard something. So if you only have the counter trap in your hand, well, you just discarded your trap. But as I said earlier, you can recycle them. If you used this and a counter trap in your hand, that's already 2 of the 3 required cards for this guy's recycle effect. So that's pretty good already. And you just got yourself a big monster and negated something just for paying 1,000 life points. It's not that bad. And honestly, there are ways to not pay the life points in this deck. So that's pretty cool. We have Minerva, which I would have very much appreciated to see as a foil. I do not understand why they have Eva or Eva as a foil, but not Minerva. Even Rebirth could have been a normal common trap, and this could have been the other super rare. But still, can't complain, the card actually exists, and that's pretty good. Each time a counter trap card is activated, immediately after it resolves, this card gains 500 attack, and if it does, and the Sanctuary in the Sky, so this card, is on the field, add 1 counter trap with a different name from your graveyard to your hand. So basically, if you used this to discard a counter trap, you could recycle said counter trap already, and this card would gain 500 attack, and you would have negated something. So that's pretty darn strong, because especially since while this is there, this is already at 2,000 attack. Now it's at 2,500. You recycle the counter trap you discarded, and you negated something. Very powerful combos right there. So Minerva is a must-have if you ever want to play this deck. We have Neo Parshath, the Sky Paladin. So basically the downgraded version of Sacred Art Knight. But yeah, this card is still powerful. It is 2,300 attack for a level 7, which is kind of disappointing. But all the Art Knight cards are basically, well, all the Parshath cards are basically Somewhat weak on the offensive further levels, but it still has a pretty strong effect. You can special summon this card by tributing one Arknight Parshath. If this card attacks a defense position monster, there's piercing damage, and if it does deal battle damage to the opponent, you draw a card. And while Sanctuary in the Sky is on the field, and your life points is higher than your opponent's, this card gains the difference as attack and defense. So it does have a possibility at being very powerful. And you can special summon it with the trap card, so that's pretty neat. We have Arknight Parshath, the original one. We have Meltiel, Sage of the Sky. Basically, this guy lets you gain life points and destroy stuff if you have the field spell. Harvest Angel of Wisdom. Basically, if it's destroyed by battle and sent to the grave, you can recycle a counter trap. But all the while, this is still a beater, and this might not be the best beater, but it could become a beater with the continuous spell that gains 300 attack. We have Bountiful Artemis, a very, very interesting card that's been out for a long time, and the ultimate rare is actually very valuable still. Each time a counter trap card is activated, immediately after it resolves, you draw a card. So that's pretty strong. You have Layard the Liberator. Each time a counter trap is activated, after it resolves, you add 2 of your banished fairy-type monsters to your hand. But it says 2, so if you only have 1, it won't work. This card is not too necessary, but it's useful. Guiding Ariadne. This is a good, or very good card in this deck. As much as you would like to be able to Pendulum Summon, this card is not here to Pendulum Summon. It's here for the effect. You do not pay life points or discard to activate counter trap cards. This helps you a lot. And the normal monster, but the basic monster effect also is useful. If this card is destroyed by battle or card effect, you can reveal 3 counter traps from your deck. Your opponent chooses 1 and you add it to your hand. So that's pretty strong, as well as a 1700 attack beat stick. It does have some very useful effects in here. Archlord Christia, very, very powerful. It stops everyone from special summoning if you do summon this. And basically, if you have this, with this on your field, you have a 3100 attack beat stick while no one can special summon. And you can always just recycle it to get yourself some more stuff. And you protect your back row, which will protect Christia from your opponent's spells and traps. It's just such a great way to just lock your opponent out and beat them up with 1 monster at a time. Same thing goes for Venus, very powerful beat stick right there. All non-fairy type monsters lose 500 attack and defense, and the activation and effects of spell and traps on your field cannot be negated. Very, very interesting card right here. We have Athena, which allows you to do some burn effects, I believe, and also some special summoning. So very cool monster right here, very powerful beat stick too. We have Tethys, Goddess of Light. This one is not as good of a beat stick, but it's still a very powerful monster nonetheless. It allows you to draw, and it's 2400 attack for 1 tribute. If you have ways of special summoning this, which you do have in this deck, this is a very useful monster. We have Icatrus. Icatrus allows you to search for Valhalla, which is a very useful continuous spell that we will see pretty soon. Galen Duo cannot be destroyed by battle. If you take any damage, destroy this face-up card. This card can be treated as 2 tributes for the tribute summon of a light fairy monster. So basically, you set it, your opponent attacks it, it can't be destroyed by battle. And next turn, you tribute summon, let's say, Athena or Splendid Venus, and, well, you just screw them up. Nova Summoner allows you to summon when it's destroyed by battle. So very useful. You can go and special summon Arknight Parshath if you have the Sanctuary in the Sky. So you can do a lot of combos with this. We have Honest. Honest is honestly one of the best hand traps for fairies. Especially in counter fairies, you have low attack most of the time. So this card can very well win you games. We have Herald of Orange Light to negate monster effects, Herald of Green Light to negate spell effects, and Herald of Purple Light to negate trap effects. Very useful cards that make you discard 2 fairies, basically, but then again, you negate an opponent's card, and you can use the spell card to recycle them. So, very useful right there. Or, by sending 2, you only need 2 more to special summon Christia. So that's pretty strong. We have Guiding Light. When this card is normal summon, you can target 1 level 1 light monster in your graveyard and special summon that target. So basically we have Eva, And that's about it for level 1s up to now, except for this card. But there should be more, I believe. Like DD Sprite, which is also a tuner. You can special summon this card from your hand by banishing one face-up monster you control. If summoned this way, during your next standby phase, return the banished monster to the field. So basically, you just postpone a monster to get yourself a card you can tribute for tribute summons or whatever. Very useful card. And we have Anewata, which protects you from effect damage for a turn. And it's a level 1 tuner, so very useful again. Now we're off to the spells. Quite a lot of monsters, but as you will see, the spells and traps are just as pertinent in this deck. The Sanctuary in the Sky, very old school field spell that was originally, I believe, a super rare, and this card has been useless but very useful forever in fairy decks, counter fairies especially. Battle damage to the controller of a fairy monster from a battle involving that monster becomes 0. It's not too useful when you consider all the badass field spells nowadays, but usually counter fairies need a lot of cards named the Sanctuary in the Sky. Like, they use cards that need this to get bonus effects. So this has been used a lot in the past, but I do expect the amount of use it sees to go down a lot since this card has come out. We also have cards from the sky. You banish one light fairy monster in your hand, and if you do, you draw 2 cards. But you cannot special summon or conduct battle phase the turn you activate this. We have Celestial Transformation, which allows you to special summon a fairy monster from your hand, but the attack is half, and it's destroyed during the end phase. So be careful of what you do, I guess. But this allows you to special summon tribute monsters, and the effect is not negated, so you can always use their effect to do stuff. Valhalla, very useful card, searchable by Ecatrice. Once per turn, you can special summon a fairy monster from your hand. You must control no monsters to activate and resolve that effect. But if you can special summon Art Knight or Athena or even Splendid Venus or whatever, this will win you games. This is a very powerful card. You don't want to see more than one at a time in your hand, because obviously you don't need more than one, but still, very, very powerful card. Ties of the Brethren. Very interesting card that got reprinted in here. You pay 2,000 life points and you target a level 4 or lower monster you control. Basically, all the main monsters are level 4 except for the Parshath. For the rest of the turn, after this card resolves, you cannot special summon monsters. Also, special summon 2 monsters from your deck with the same type, attribute, and level. So basically, any of the counter fairy monsters. And basically, you cannot conduct your battle phase that turn, but you basically just got yourself, let's say you had Meltiel on the field. Well, you activate Ties, and you get yourself Power Angel Valkyria, and you get yourself Minerva. And now you got yourself a very powerful field with lots of surviving capabilities and lots of offensive power for the next turn. We have traps, because obviously counter fairies need traps. We have Light of Judgment. If the Sanctuary in the Sky is on the field, discard one light monster to the graveyard to apply one of the following effects. Look at your opponent's hand and discard 1 card, or send 1 card from your opponent controls to the graveyard. It says send, not destroy. So very useful card for against decks that say that their monsters cannot be destroyed by card effects. We have Miraculous Descent, where you target a banished fairy monster and special summon it. Basically, it's like Call of the Haunted, but for fairies that are banished. We have Synthetic Seraphim. Each time a counter trap is activated, immediately after it resolves, you special summon a token. So in this deck, it happens a lot, and this allows you to go into your tributes easier, or you can also go into your link monsters with this. Very useful, but it's a little slow. We have traps that are counters. This is the main lifeline of this deck. Divine Punishment. When a spell or trap card or monster effect is activated while the field spell is there, negate the activation, and if you do, destroy it. Dark Bribe. Everybody knows Dark Bribe. It's pretty strong. Solemn Warning. Very interesting reprint. It's been reprinted tons of times, but you never have too many because you need one of these in most of your decks, if not all of them. So this is a pretty cool reprint, and it's a counter trap. Very useful, and if you consider that Solemn Strike has been reprinted lately, and is very much illegal at 3, you can easily make this deck a very powerful Solemn counter deck. Ultimate Providence allows you to have a counter trap in your grave and discard a card from your hand to the grave. So you could use your continuous spells effect to recycle much faster. It's sad that you need so many resources, but it does allow you to negate a lot of stuff from your opponent's field. And we have Drastic Drop-Off. When your opponent adds a card or multiple cards from their deck to their hand, including drawing, they must discard one of those cards. So if they use, let's say, Terraforming to search for their field, boom, they just lost that field. And you got a counter trap in your grave, so effects that need counter traps will be able to activate easily. And we have Recall, which was very recently printed. I am actually very, what would you say? I'm not concerned, I'm not surprised, but I'm a little disappointed this got reprinted so fast. I do understand that it's basically Dark Bribe for effect monsters, but I am disappointed that it's been reprinted right after being printed for the original time. But still, it's still a very useful card in here. And we have the token, Synthetic Seraphim Token. It can be used as any Synthetic Seraphim token, but if used for another token, apply that token's type, attribute, and stuff, because this token actually has attack and defense. What the hell? Usually tokens are generic stuff. This creeps me out a bit, but okay. So basically this was the deck. The deck is pretty good. You can do a lot of different combos. If we look at this little guide over here, you can see that most of what I said was mentioned in here. You use Valhalla to special summon the big guys, you use this to special summon this guy. You can always use your counter traps to get some bonus attacks and stuff. This allows you to negate, and this allows you to search and recycle and whatever. This allows you to recycle most of everything. And then you have your big powerful monsters and reprints in here. Allows you to just not pay for your cards, allow you to stop your opponent from doing stuff, allows you to draw, allows you to summon, and allows you to negate easily. So basically, this deck goes around negating and trying to spam some weak monsters when they're alone, but very powerful monsters when they have support. And this deck is all about stalling and supporting. So I wouldn't say this deck is meta relevant. Far from it, actually. I don't think it should even win easily in locals. But if you do buy like 2 or 3 of these decks and you do mix them up pretty well, and you add some Solemn Strikes and maybe a Dark Hole or Reigeki and stuff like that, maybe some hand traps in general, but I'm not sure if you need any more hand traps than this. This deck could be playable, at least at a local level, and it shouldn't have too much of a hard time. Usually locals are a little slower paced than big tournaments, so slower decks like this one do have a very good fighting chance at those. But basically, this is not something I would find myself investing in trying to make good. If you do want to, feel free to do so. This is just my modest opinion. I do very much enjoy this kind of deck. This is the kind of deck that I use to play, countering stuff and just dealing damage one small blow at a time. But as I mentioned multiple times, this is very slow for nowadays, and nowadays is the present, and present is what you need to focus on usually in Yu-Gi-Oh! But you never know what the future has in store. Maybe the game will slow down quite fast after the next ban list or two, and who knows, maybe in 2 or 3 sets, the game will have slowed down quite a bit. So this might be a wise investment for future tournament play. Not saying it will be, because you never know what happens, but it might be. So you guys out there, be wary that this deck is something to look at, but don't necessarily expect it to be the bomb, like the ABC deck was, or the Dinosaur deck was. This should have come out maybe at the beginning of Link era, not a few months in it like we are right now. But still, very enjoyable deck. And I hope you guys did enjoy this little review that actually took a little longer than I expected, but there were so many effects that needed to be mentioned. So yeah, if you enjoyed the video, leave a like down below. If you have any comments, if you want to share some combos I didn't go over for other viewers, if you have any suggestions for future videos, leave a comment down below. I will be gladly reading them and answering to them. If you have any questions for me, if you want to share this video, share it. There's a button for it, and it's pretty nice to share. I mean, sharing is caring, guys. And then again, if you really enjoyed these videos that I do, please subscribe to the channel. It shows me how much you support me, and I really, really do enjoy the support, you guys. Some of you guys have been very, very nice. Feel free to chat me up anytime. I'm here because I like the hobby. This is my passion. Might as well show you guys how much I enjoy it, right? So yeah, I hope you guys will stay tuned for the next time. We will be opening some pretty interesting stuff this January. We started pretty strong with some OCG, very awesome pulls we got from the 20th anniversary wave 1 and 2. And we're going to go strong this month because we need to start the new year, 2018, with a big bang. And so until the end of this month, there will be more videos than usual. And we will be trying to open some older stuff and some newer stuff. So you guys should be entertained pretty well. And until next time, guys, Panem out.